Blindsided podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about service, random acts of kindness, thinking and doing for others, and the benefits and how it serves us more than you can imagine. My name is Charlie Collins. I'm co-host here at the Blindsided podcast, co-founder of the Thriving Blind Academy. I do some coaching, do some speaking, and I do some listening.
Hi, Charlie. Great to be here tonight. Hi, everyone. My name is Brenda Hayden. I'm the founder of timefor10.com. We are an emotional awareness, emotional intelligence coaching service. I'm also the co-host, which I keep forgetting to say every week because I think it's obvious, of the Blindsided podcast here with Charlie. I love doing this too. And I just love working with people. Actually, we help people challenge their conditioned thinking so they can get at the root cause of their disturbances and their 0 to 7 programming. Change it.
Fantastic. Let's give us some room. And here it is. So anyway, I thought it a good topic because I didn't know this growing up. I didn't, and I'm sure my parents said this, and I knew because we were a very close family, and my grandparents were around, and then they ended up moving in with us, and I was always doing for them. Now, my grandfather would pay us for doing things, but that most of the thing it was just sitting, doing, and checking on them and that, and that always felt good, but I didn't know like it was a principle or like a law of the universe. I didn't realize that, like when I'm in a funk, when I'm seeking all day, trying to do something to make me feel better, but it's by me, for me. And that day just doesn't seem to get out of the way. I just keep, even though I'm doing decent stuff or I'm searching on the web, I'm making calls, geez, what else can I do today to feel better? It didn't dawn on me until I did some work that, hey, maybe if you disconnect from you and go think of somebody you can be of service to, that might help you.
Yeah. It never occurred to me either until I did some inner work. It never occurred to me that I might actually get more out of being of service to someone than the person I'm being of service to does. I had no idea that that's how it worked. And it's actually become my go-to for when I'm feeling overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, lonely. If I feel any kind of emptiness inside of me, the answer to that is to always reach my hand out to help somebody else. And, I have, before I awakened to that, I want to tell you a little story. Are you up for a little story?
Yes, ma'am.
This is one of the things that really clued me in. And it was a transformative moment in my life. I was in the grocery store shopping, right? And I bring my groceries out to my car. I put it in my trunk and I'm bringing my cart back. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this older woman struggling to put her groceries into her trunk. And I return my cart and I start walking back. And she had finished putting her groceries in her trunk. And this kind of like voice came in and said, return her cart for her. Take her cart and return it for her. And I responded to that internally. I'm like, I don't have time to do that. But I was surprised that something was saying that to me because there was no conversation at the time going on between me and my inner self. But I said, no, basically, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And the voice got stronger. Return her cart for her. So I walk up to this woman. And again, this is before I did any of this work. And I said, can I return your cart for you? And she snaps at me. She goes, why? Because I'm old? And I said, no. I said, because God told me to. And that came through me. That didn't come from me. That came through me. And she starts to cry. This woman starts to cry. And now I'm crying and she's crying because I'm as moved by this experience with her as she is. And I return her cart for her. I get in my car, and as I'm pulling out of the parking lot, I see her. She's coming out as well. waving to me like I'm her best friend, like she's known me her whole life. And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, all I did was get out of myself a little bit. And I couldn't believe the experience I had with this individual. Never seen her again. But I will never forget that experience. This had to be going back about 10 years, Charlie. 10 years. Yeah. And if we were not on a podcast, I'd be crying right now. Because I have a hard time telling that story without crying. It was that moving, and that, it left that kind of impression on me. And that changed the way I thought about being of service. Do you have a story like that?
Yes, but first, when I was growing up, down the street there was an older gentleman and his wife, and I used to somehow I started cutting their lawn at times, or shoveling their walks, and they started bringing me in their house, and I would move things, and they paid me, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I never thought like I need something from this. I just was. Something in me liked doing that. And then there was Mr. Rains and him, and I would drive his old wheel horse tractor. I would move sticks, and I liked I didn't know why. I didn't know that when I was walking back home, my struggles at school, relationships, my eyesight failing, like nothing bothered me. I was kind of had a lighter step. I was floating, but I never connected it until later on in life, but I continued to do that. My dad would let me take the lawnmower. I would drive throughout neighborhood to cut other people's lawns with his stuff, and just as a favor to people that maybe were away. And it's like, when I did work and I looked back, I realized I was doing it. I wasn't putting the equation together, but at least I didn't just only do for me all the time. And I knew people that wouldn't dare do for others because it didn't seem to benefit them. They didn't know. And but my parents, my mother and my dad were very welcoming, always had their home open. People were allowed to move in, have meals. I mean, it was that type of, hey, we have this, we can help you. And that was kind of cool.
That's so nice that you got a sense of the importance and the significance of that in your family of origin. That's not what we had going on in my family of origin. We didn't have that kind of education going on. People didn't come over. It wasn't a welcoming environment. Both of my parents had substance use disorder. So it was not really an environment where, we were being of service to anybody in that home. But I did learn it outside of the home. And I also learned it really more significantly in being in a 12-step program and sponsoring women through those 12 steps. Sponsoring them and taking them through the steps is an act of service. And, the most incredible thing happens in those moments working with somebody else in that capacity is like their higher power and my higher power connect, and you've got just this incredible energy going on, and I grow and the other person grows, and I see things differently, and I'm helping this person see things differently. And it's just, there are miracles. I could talk on and on about the miracle after miracle after miracle that I've witnessed, the transformations that I've witnessed in other people just from that process alone of being of service in that way. And those experiences with women in a 12-step program has really opened my world to be of service to others in different ways outside of a 12-step program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think I was 21. I was a troubled 21-year-old. I was angry. I was full of self-pity, depression, and life had becoming harder to handle and navigate, and I couldn't understand it, and drinking, drug, and doing things to manage my suffering, and I was a risk taker. Maybe it was I know for a fact it was also so people would like me and think I was cool.
Mhm.
And like, yo, that was sick, dude, was a positive thing to hear. And then as I got better, I thought, no, they were really saying, you're sick, dude. Not that was sick. And I was coming home from a Grateful Dead concert from Madison Square Garden, and I decided to climb out on top of the train. I don't think that's a normal decision, but there were two buddies with me, and I coached them to come out a little bit too. But I got electrocuted. I fell into the electricity and off the Bridgeport burn unit. Of course, I didn't die. Should I have? No, because then I would have been dead. But it's very rare for somebody to do what I went through and live. Maybe there's a power greater than me. And while I'm in the hospital, it took about 3 days. It was severe torture and pain, and you're getting 12,000 volts through your body, and it was all burnt from the inside out and holes all over me. But
Mm.
then all of a sudden, something happened. I started somehow getting out of my bed. I had to be in a wheelchair, and I would work my way and go into other people's rooms. And I would ask them and sit with them, and what happened, and talk them through. And then I'd go to another room and another room, and then I would come back, and there was a young boy that he emptied the gunpowder out of a bullet in his dad's basement, and then he put a match on it and so he burnt
Mm.
his whole face. And I sat with him a lot. And then I sat with another gentleman that passed away like an hour after I left his room, just trying to comfort people and just to get me out of my room to do stuff. And what happened, Brenda, was I should have been in the hospital like a couple of months. I got out in 23 days. And they
Wow.
didn't understand, like, what are you? You're superhuman. And as when I did the work, I realized, because every day I was getting out of myself. I wasn't lying in my bed going, this sucks, poor me, I can't believe that my life's never going to be the same. I can't, I was thinking of others, asking them, and being around those people. They were all worse off than me. Why? Because they were not coming to my room. They
Mm.
weren't getting out of themselves. I had no idea. I just did it. Why? Because when I got back to my room, I felt better. Because it was miserable being burned like the way I was, and in a unit where people, all you could hear screams all the time from pain. And that was that, and that aha moment did not come. Didn't see it in the hospital. Didn't take it wasn't grateful. Didn't notice anything. Just was like, I'm out. And I came back a few times, Brenda, to the hospital. They asked me to come speak to some of the patients. I got a plaque from the hospital. The family
Aw.
of the parents from the little boy gave me a plaque on the service. How much I helped their little boy. And I never expected anything like that. I didn't realize that it was such a healing thing I did.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Charlie. And it came naturally to you.
Yeah.
Came naturally to you at a time when you were really suffering. And I want to spend a minute or two talking about that, because I believe that being of service to others is a natural tendency for a human being. It really is. I think that we are trained out of it. We are feared, we are in a structure of fear, which causes us to shut that part of ourselves down. I mean, I don't know how many videos I've watched on various platforms where you have children, right? And there's fruit or whatever it is they're playing with, and they're naturally sharing with one another. They're not hoarding, right? They're naturally sharing with one another. And sometimes, a child will, if there's one left, will give it to another child, even though it means that they're not going to get one, whether it's an apple or a cookie or whatever. I've watched numerous videos of children playing in that way. And I've watched videos of that at school when we were studying social emotional learning. I did 2 semesters of that and watched children really care about each other. And I think as adults, as we become frightened, as our conditioned thinking starts to get developed, right? And we start to, be imprinted with whatever it is that our parents fear is that they're carrying around, or other school kids or teachers, or wherever it is that we pick up that programming, changes that. and getting back to that as an adult, I think, is huge. And I think we have a natural capacity to want to be kind and loving and caring. I mean, all these videos, do you ever go on TikTok or Instagram and see all these videos of random acts of kindness, and how many, because you like the likes, how many likes people are getting when they share that? I mean, we're craving that as a society. We see that happening and it touches our heart, and we enjoy seeing it.
I know I do. And no, I don't do TikTok or Instagram, but YouTube
I
shorts
love
and
YouTube.
stuff. But anyway, the guy that stops by and knocks on he knows it's an elderly person. The property's going to pot, and he just out of kindness cleans the whole lot up. Doesn't want anything. Of course, he videos it. Of course, he gets a lot of exposure, and of course, I want to hire a guy like that. So it's smart. He's doing for others, but he's receiving. I don't have
Yeah.
a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And random acts of kindness might work for some people, not for me. I've got to do it more than randomly, because if I don't stay on top of it, I might drift back into me. And what's in it for me is the radio station I tune into. I could tell a story that when I was a go-getter, right? I was a go-getter. And that produced some results in life, but it left a lot of people in the lurch or behind, or because I'm getting and I need to build and look good and feel good and get more money and build bigger material. So that's go get. I'm a go-getter. And then something shifted and I became a go-giver. And in that model, it wasn't always thinking, what am I going to get in return? It was, how can I best serve thee? Or how can I best serve you? Or what can I do to help brighten your day? And it wasn't money I was getting paid. It was a spiritual bliss, or it was the truth of the higher self saying, finally, you're getting it on a better wavelength. And, this is the meaning of life.
100%, Charlie. And I want to make it clear too that being of service to somebody else doesn't always necessarily mean, physically going somewhere and doing something for someone. Because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have that kind of time, or, I'm not going up to someone in a parking lot and returning their cart, right? Being of service could be, you could be that person that smiles to the person walking by you on the street. That might be the only smile they get all day. You could be the person that lets the person go in front of you at the grocery line when they have just a few items and you have a bunch. It could be praying for somebody, sending good vibes out, meditating and sending good energy out for somebody. It could be offering to help. Whether it's holding space for somebody when they're feeling sad, just giving them your time to listen to what they're going through. There's so many ways you could be of service without like mowing someone's lawn. You know what I mean? It could even be, Charlie, and I love to do this because this to me is a big winner. Not engaging when somebody's snarky or treats you badly. Instead of like reacting and arguing with the person or defending or whatever it is, be kind instead. Be kind instead. So you can smile and I appreciate your feedback, and you can walk away, or you not engage, not think ill will of them. Just let them have their whatever moment they're having for whatever reason they're having it, without personalizing it or reacting to it in any way. That's being of service to another person. Everybody gets to have a bad day.
Even though they think it would be lovely if you jumped in the ring with me right now. And you diffuse it by, thank you. So, and then that diffuses them eventually.
Yeah.
So you talked about smiling. So we have mirroring neurons in our mind, in our brain. So you could be grumped, and the cashier, like, I'm irritated that it took so long to get to the cashier. So I got a scowl, and all of a sudden, hi. And you're like, Oh, crap. I just smiled back and I didn't mean to. Because why would I be mean to her? She did nothing wrong. She's working her tail off, but I want to get mad at her because of
Mhm.
the two slow pokes in front of me,
Yeah.
because I got somewhere to be and it's really nowhere. It's just not in line. And
Mm.
if I don't want to be in line, I don't want to be in the moment. I want to be in me somewhere else, thinking about me, about something else. I get all twisted. And then some kind person, just in a soft voice, with a smile. They don't know that it activates me to smile because they just triggered my mirroring neurons in my
Yeah.
brain. And that's why when people do this, some people might do it. If you cross your leg and you're talking to someone, then you end up crossing your leg. What the heck? Why do I keep following that? I mean, it's all sales techniques too, but it's all good too. And Kristen, my partner in the Thriving Blind Academy, she was having a tough day and grumped, and she was it's Mr. Cranky Pants and Mrs. Crabtree. And I know couples like that. It's like, whew, here they come. Run. But anyway, she was just, and she's like, that's it. She goes to the local store and she just started walking and smiling, going, hello, and smiling and saying, waving and saying hi, and I hope you're having a good day, and smiling. And she said it was almost every single person smiled back at her. She had no idea what her problem was when she left, and she went home and it was a complete different mindset.
Beautiful. What a perfect example of the power of being of service. Moving a muscle, changing a thought, and doing something as simple as going for a walk or going to the store. You said she went to the store, right? And just smiling at people, just smiling at them. I think people forget that naturally and organically, we are social beings that crave connection. We are social beings that crave connection. I remember Brene Brown saying, she said, stop saying you don't care what other people think, because you do care what other people think. You care what they think because we're wired that way. We're social beings craving connection. Now, there's a whole nother side of, I'm not going to define myself by the way somebody else thinks, but we do care. We cognitively appraise that. We don't take that in. We're able to detach from those feelings appropriately when we need to. But you know what I'm trying to say. As human beings, we're social.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Even introverts and extroverts, it doesn't matter. You connect on a level. It's intimate. It's like you said, it's the way it broke down the barriers, and you just, something came out of you put yourself vulnerable with the cart, and then it broke, and both of you just connected instantly.
Well, we didn't though. We didn't. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We didn't. She rejected me, is what she did. She
Right.
she was snarky. She said, "Why? Because I'm old." And I didn't take that rejection in.
Correct.
And whatever it was took over and said, because what came through me was because God told me to. And that must have been what she needed to hear that day. And God knew it, the universe, whatever. I didn't know
Yeah,
what she needed.
that's what I mean. And then you connected, and you guys could have had a 2-hour conversation probably at that point.
Yep. Yep.
There were no more barriers.
No more barriers. I love that. Let's talk about what happens with the barriers when you do a random act of kindness. Your barriers with other people moving forward, and your barriers in that moment with the other person that you're being of service to.
Well, I was at the removing barriers in Montana last weekend at the Montana Association for the Blind, MAB. But anyway, breaking down barriers, and you know, breaking down barriers. What are barriers? They're usually put up by self.
Mm-hmm.
Barriers are, and how do you break them down? Well, first identify that I take responsibility. It's me putting them up. It's me thinking they don't want to hear from me. It's me coming into a room full of people and wondering why no one is making me feel welcomed. Because I have walked in and I am visually impaired, and these people should know how to treat me. So there's a barrier. It's a barrier because no one is helping me see what's in this buffet. And I have all these barriers. And then I say, hey, buddy, how are you? My name is Charlie. I'm from Connecticut. you going through the line, is there anything I can help you with? Because guess what? He was blind. I'm just legally blind. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's great. I can't find the plates. Here you go. Do you want a fork, knife, and a spoon? Yep. I said, then there was someone standing. I said, ma'am, would you help us explain what's in each bin? Absolutely. I mean, it was a celebration event. There was no barriers, and he was so grateful. I thought I was thinking of me. And this is just this weekend. I was like, God dang it. You know, and then I realized, why don't I help someone and everything else will follow in place? And it did.
That's great. And you bring up a really good point. And it's always important to remember this, that there's always somebody that's worse off than you are. No matter what the struggle is or what is holding you back from going into your heart and being of service to somebody else. There's always somebody worse off than you.
All right. So, Brenda, there was a time I was at a conference and I got called out because I wanted to fear out. I wanted to, that false evidence was appearing real. And me, only thinking of me and how I felt there. I wasn't like trying to be of service and help others or anything, because I had this barrier up that everybody was smarter, faster, and better than me still. And this is 2008. And I got called out by Jack Canfield. You know, he said, why are you carrying that chip around still? You know, at your age, isn't it about time that you let go of that? Do you actually think you're not worthy because of, and people listening, y'all have that because of some reason I'm not worthy at times where I can totally give of myself. I didn't know that. So he said, stop it. And then he said, how many people in this room would be willing to help Charlie if he needed help? And the whole place went crazy clapping, over 300 people, right? And I was very like, whoa. And then he explained something, and you talked about it earlier. You said, we're here on this planet. If we're still here, we're here to help people. Yeah. It's not a go at it alone. It's not go getting your whole life. It's go giving your whole life. Yeah. And that doesn't mean you give away your house and give. It means you give your thoughts, your kindness. How can I serve with nothing in return? Like, I don't need you to do something for me. I don't need you to tell everybody how great I am or anything, you know. And Jack made this so clear. He said, so stop it. And I did. That moment, that day, I stopped it. Now, it took time because I need to ask for help at times, right? And yes. Why would I want to rob somebody that opportunity? Because when someone asks me, and I don't have a problem saying no if I can't do it, but when people ask me, especially traveling, it's so funny. People ask the blind guy, hey, do you know how to get to gate so-and-so? And I usually do, and I can help people. I've even walked people to a gate, and I never told them I couldn't see. I just knew airports from traveling a lot. And I was so happy they asked me to help them because it felt so good, because otherwise I'm standing there waiting. Like, okay, airports are starting to suck. Hey, excuse me, sir. Could you help me? Yes. And what I realized by me never asking or allowing people the opportunity to help me, I'm robbing them of that opportunity. And I don't want to be that guy anymore. Now, I don't want to be one of those people pleasing type people either, because people pleasers are kind of looking for something in return because they got a low self-esteem. They don't have the power to say no. That might be a whole separate podcast. But this, when I was down the street working, helping my buddy, he was in the hospital going through, his cancer was getting worse. And I go down there. I didn't tell him. I went and cut his lawn, edged his sidewalks, trimmed the bushes. I spent like a day and a half. Well, not all 8 hours, but it took me 2 days. I went in 2 different, and then I took pictures only because I knew the guy. He loved having nice, tight property, and it looked good. And I sent it to him in the hospital. And after he passed away, his daughter said, for almost 2 days, he kept picking up those pictures and looking at them. And you want to tell, I tingle, like I felt after he had passed, the love and the connection we still had. Did I want anything from that? No way.
Yeah. Are you talking about Mickey?
Vinny.
Oh, nice. I thought
Vinny
maybe you were
did.
talking about Mick. I miss Mickey.
I do too.
Yeah, I can picture you taking care of Mickey's lawn too. That's
Oh,
beautiful, Charlie. And you know what you're talking about there too is when you do something, because only you and Vinny knew about that, or Vinny's daughter knew about it because you gave her the pictures. But doing an act of kindness and not getting caught. Isn't that what they used to say? Do something kind for someone and don't get caught. In other words, don't tell anybody. You know what I used to do? I'm going to share it. I've never shared it. In the summertime, when I would see the electric company workers or the pavers, people who are doing the paving in our town, I would go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'd drive by them. I'd see how many men were there, women were there, but they were mostly men at the time. And then I would go to Dunkin' Donuts and I'd get a bunch of the big ice drinks, with all the pretty colors. And I would bring them, I'd just pull up and I'd give them all those really nice flavored drinks on a hot summer day. And I wouldn't tell anybody about it. It was just something I would do without sharing it with anybody. And it felt so good to have, and I've never shared about it till this podcast, to have that in my awareness that I can do something for somebody else and not go look for cash and prizes, which is how I used to operate. I'm going to do something for you, but I want cash and prizes in return. And I don't have to do that anymore. It feels so much better to go do something and not share it with anybody and just know that you were of service to another human being that day and of service to God.
Because if we are sending out a thoughtful text, and really I am, and expecting a certain type of response in a certain amount of time, I'm not going to say, but I might know some people like that. They have a kind heart, but they need some sort of return. If you're finding that you're doing it, but you're wondering why it isn't working, because it is working, but you're looking, you have your what do we call that? Your motive is a little off.
Right.
And when I too didn't, I remember being in a meeting and somebody said, "Oh my gosh, I heard from Vinny's daughter all the stuff you were doing around his house when he was sick. That is so awesome of you." And I'm like, "Thank you." But again, Brenda, I didn't make announcements. I didn't put it in the Cheshire Herald. I didn't go up and down and tell everyone how great I am, because it isn't about me.
Yeah.
And that's the healing. So if you're feeling a little down, or you're feeling, we get stuck in self and we don't really see it, because how can we only think of us? And we don't see outside what's in it for me today? And why am I feeling this way? And, why is that person bothering me? And when we're in that, it's hard to think of how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. Right. And I'm just, challenge you. If you're feeling a little off, or you're blaming, complaining, you're struggling, just take a breath and think, who can I best serve right now? How can I help somebody? Because I know for a fact, I asked that in the morning, and you said it, you got an inner prompting to say, "May I help you with that cart?" It first looked like the wrong thing to do, but then the right thing came through you. And then it connected why that inner prompting came to you. I don't ignore. Sometimes I get an inner prompting in the morning. Call so-and-so. Oh, I haven't talked to that dude in a while. And I call, dude, you couldn't have called at a better time. Like, I knew that. Of course I did, but I did, you know what I mean? I didn't need to know that. It came to me. Then you make the call. The people say, you couldn't have texted me at a better time. You couldn't have called me at a better time. You show up at a house. Last night, a neighbor lost her dog way too soon. And Molly and I walked down to the house with a mom and a card, only to be there in her time of healing. And she was blown away. And did I do it for the blow away? Or did I tell all the other neighbors, look at how good we are? No, because I believe what goes around comes around.
I agree 100%. I just want to say one more thing too, Charlie. There have been plenty of times when I've done an act of kindness for somebody and the outcome was not a positive one. In other words, it wasn't well received. And that has nothing to do with me, right? That is not a personal thing. That is the other person's difficulty in being able to receive. And it has, in the instances where the outcome wasn't what I thought it would be, which was the person was pleased with the act of kindness, it doesn't matter. You still did it. You know what I mean? You still were trying to be of service to somebody else. So my point is it's not about the outcome either. It's not about the outcome. A lot of people don't know how to receive. They don't actually receive well, but it shouldn't stop you from doing it anyway.
No. But also, if you're expecting an outcome, then you got a motive in it.
Yes.
And that's
Exactly.
not that. My brother was home from Colorado. I shouldn't say home. He was visiting us here. And we went over to the local senior place. And we played about 12 songs on the guitar for the room full of seniors. And they could have a glass of wine during it. So it was a party. And and we played away.
I love it.
And the energy in that room, the people came up, they loved it, and they think we're young. That's awesome. So myself,
Charlie.
I can't wait for a 90-year-old to tell me, "Oh, thank you, young man. Oh, I love you, ma'am." And it just felt so good to. And my sister came, and it was just, it's like, that's what life is about. That's what it's about. Just being there for others.
It is, Charlie. It is. It's a
If
great
it
place.
wasn't, oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. I'm good. I think we're good here.
I think we're good too. I was going to say it's a great place to stop.
Well, because now I got to go be of service. I'm all jacked up.
I know. Oh, this has been great, despite the technical difficulties. Join us next week. Make sure that you subscribe, that you like, and that you share. That would be a great service.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah. And tell a friend. And
yeah,
you know what? I challenge everybody that watches this, after you're done, make it a part of your day to go do something for someone. And whether they find out or not, whether anyone else, just go and try it out and trust that over time, and probably the first time, but it's an amazing healing for both parties.
Yes.
And we'll see you when we see you next. Bye.